Hi, I'm Sophia Pataloki.
I'm Cindy Hansen.
And today we are going to be covering the presidential election.
And bringing it closer to home, we're also going to be talking to the two mayoral candidates of Wilsonville. First, we're going to be talking to Mr. Esqueda, AP US history teacher. Who do you think has run a better campaign as of so far in the presidential election?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think it's hard to say because one candidate has just entered the race in August, being Vice President Kamala Harris, and the other one has been running for president for a very long time. I think that's definitely a question that is in the eye of the beholder. So I think those who support President Trump will say that his campaign has been run a lot better, and I think those who support the vice president will probably say so. In my opinion, I think they're both running very traditional type of campaigns that we've seen since 2016. Big online presence. You see Donald Trump using the podcast format a lot, which is definitely an outreach that we see that's something new. You see Vice President Kamala Harris using TikTok, trying to outreach to the younger voters. So I think both candidates' campaigns are doing very well on outreach. I think the divergence will be messaging and who agrees with what.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. In your opinion, who do you think is more likely to win?
Again, this election cycle in particular is so interesting. I usually would tip my hat to the incumbent, but because both of these candidates are incumbent-like, meaning you have the vice president who has served as vice president for the last 4 years, who is considered more of the incumbent candidate because she's currently in office. While you have a former president, only 4 years ago that ended his term, who is now coming back to run for a second term. Very Grover Cleveland-like. So who do I think has the best chance to win in November? I would say as of right now, I would tip my hat to Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Do you think the candidates will keep their promises when they elect?
No, I don't. Not because the candidates necessarily don't want to. I think most of them would love to keep all of their promises and keep their voters happy, whether we agree or disagree on what that is. No, I don't, because of the functions of our government, which is why it's very important to take government or civics class in high school. Because when we see a candidate make all these promises, whether it be healthcare, taxes, immigration, very hot topic issues, abortion being another one. While a president has a lot of leeway power with his executive function, it would be fairly difficult to pass any of these legislations without Congress. And right now we're looking at a most likely split Congress. The Senate looks like it most likely will be controlled by the Republicans, and the House looks like it most likely will flip over to the Democrats, leaving pretty much whoever wins the presidency with a split Congress that they're going to have to work with. So do I think they're going to keep all their promises? No, because one party is going to be controlled one side of the chamber, the other party is going to be controlled the other, and neither party will definitely give to leeway to that.
Okay, yeah, good to know. What state do you think is key to winning the election? Specifically, which swing state is the most important?
Yeah, I would definitely say Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania has been an interesting battleground state for a long time. It's part of what we call the Blue Wall. It's those Midwestern states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And what we see is usually those three, not all the time, but the vast majority of the time, they kind of collectively go one way. Those three states went for Obama twice. Those three states went for Trump in 2016. And then those three states went back to the Democratic Party with President Biden in 2020. So if you look at the map and you kind of give Vice President Kamala Harris all of the, what we say, safe blue states, and vice versa with Donald Trump, all the vice president would need is Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan to hit the magic number of 270. And Pennsylvania being, I think, the way that one goes usually is the way the other two go. So I would have to say Pennsylvania.
Okay. Such a great interview. Thank you so much to Mr. Esqueda for talking to me.
He brought up a lot of really great points, but now we're going to break down some of those points, starting with how does the president even get elected? And And that process is through the Electoral College.
What is the Electoral College?
So basically, the Electoral College is how we vote for president. And so you may be on election night watching with your parents, seeing like the numbers in each state. Like, for example, Oregon, you'll see an 8. Those represent how many Congress members we have in Congress. And so more populated states such as New York and California, they have a lot because there's a lot more people there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's by congressional district. And so, for example, we are in like the Portland district. So however Portland votes, that congressman who represents Portland is going to go off and vote for whoever they choose. And so that is how we vote for president. So instead of it being by like popular vote, it's based off the Electoral College.
Okay, so does that mean even like the candidate who got the most votes overall nationally could sometimes not win the presidency?
Yes, and we actually did see that happen in 2016. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but she didn't win the Electoral College, and so Donald Trump was president.
I noticed that Maine and Nebraska look a little bit different on the Electoral College map. What does that what does that mean?
So Nebraska and Maine, they do things a little bit differently. So instead of breaking it up like this, like winner takes all, like in Oregon, like whoever gets all the Electoral College votes, like that's who gets Oregon as a state.
Oh, okay.
With Nebraska and Maine, it's broken up by congressional districts, like I talked about earlier. So for example, in Nebraska, the entire state could be red, like all of the congressional districts will be red, except for normally we'll see Omaha, which is the huge city in Nebraska, be blue, and that's because it's broken up by,
by district.
Yes.
Okay, so does that mean it could be like striped red and blue?
Yes, and that's normally is what ends up happening,
Okay.
especially in Maine and Nebraska.
I'm going to hear from some students at Wilsonville High School about their thoughts about the election. Good.
My name's Simon Filio, and I'm a junior.
Okay, would you consider yourself politically involved?
I'd say so. I mean, it's a pretty heated political time, and my brother is going into political science at BYU, so I hear a lot about it.
Okay, do you think you're pretty informed about the election?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Pretty informed.
Where do you get your news from?
I get a lot of news from my brother and my family, and just like, I don't know, TikTok, Instagram. Not often like mainstream news sites, but all over pretty much.
Okay, and if you could vote, who would you vote for?
I'd vote for Donald J. Trump.
Okay, why is that?
I'd vote for Trump because he stands for a lot more Christian values, I think, and I think the economy was really good under him, and I think he's a proved good leader that we've seen work. So,
Why would you not vote for Kamala Harris?
I wouldn't vote for Kamala Harris because I feel like a little bit she wasn't democratically put up there. She kind of just got like assigned that position, and she wasn't voted in through that right process, which I think is like. I think she's a fine candidate, but I think that process didn't really get her there, and I think that like that is going to kind of show.
Okay.
I'm Vivian Ward and I'm a junior.
Okay, would you consider yourself politically involved?
I would. I do like to keep up on politics and follow the news.
Okay, and do you think you're informed on the election?
I would say that I am.
Okay, where do you get your news from?
I listen to podcasts and I also read the news, and I like programs like CNN and ABC News and the New York Times. Which
If you could vote, who would you vote for?
I would be voting for Kamala Harris.
Okay, why is that?
I just think that I do not want a convicted felon and someone who's been in jail as our president, and I think that Kamala Harris has a lot of good, strong ideas for America's future, and I also really like the vice presidential candidate, Tim Walz.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, a little bit closer to home, we're going to be talking to some of the mayoral candidates.
I'm running for mayor of Wilsonville.
Okay, why would you consider yourself the best candidate for Wilsonville?
Well, I think one of the main things is I sold my business the end of 2020 and I retired. Then I retired for 4.5 months and failed utterly at retiring because I ran out of projects around the house. So I got civically involved ever since, and it's not my first time running. I ran for state rep for this district in 22. Great learning process, it's about all I can say. But I narrowed my focus down to a city level, which gets you closer to the people that you're trying to serve. So that's why.
And we were doing some research on kind of like what you'd want to do if you became mayor. And we were just wondering, how would you plan to solve the homelessness issue in Wilsonville?
Yeah, it's a, I don't want to say complex, but it's a large issue, and it's not a thing that's unique to Wilsonville itself. It's a statewide issue, and it's a national issue. And you have a number of reasons why people are homeless. Some actually prefer to live that way. I don't understand it, but I accept what their explanation is. But there's a problem with mental health facilities and the availability, and some people have mental problems. Some people are just flat broke and they have no place else to go. So the way to solve that is at every level of government, both with governmental organizations, but also with private entities. So it's going to be a cooperative thing, but it has to be done statewide. It can't just be Wilsonville, because a lot of homeless people are transient. So they come in, they leave, they drift through, they come back, that kind of thing. So.
Okay. And another question we had was, what is your plan to solve the traffic problem and tolling in Wilsonville?
Well, tolling, I actually have a background for a few years now on the initiative process and defeating it in the first place. Tolling is really not the best solution to solving the problem. Everybody knows, everybody agrees that we need to do the work on our roads. It's not like people don't want to pay for it, it's the way we pay for it. And one of the big reasons it's a bad idea is 85% of building and operating a tolling system just goes to administrating it. So not $1 of the first 85, not 1 penny of the first 85 cents goes to actually doing something with bridges and roads and that kind of thing. So there are other ways that have been suggested, and from what I understand, they're being studied. And I think we'll come up with a good solution that really won't involve tolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, can you tell us more about your slow, smart growth plan?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but we're in the metro grouping of counties, so it's Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties. And there's been some really aggressive growth plans that have been instituted in the last 5-10 years. And Wilsonville, from a state standpoint, if we don't actually lead the state, we're close to the top of the list for the state in terms of the rate of growth and also the density that we have built, the density of the housing. So that's created a lot of problems. You might have noticed traffic, you might have noticed some other things. So what we need to do at this point, the slow, smart growth thing is, okay, we're going to take a pause, we're going to slow down, and we're going to work on infrastructure to support all that traffic. So we need more ways to get from one side of I-5 to the other, instead of everybody going on Wilsonville Road, that kind of thing. So once we get the infrastructure, at least part of the way there to support the growth, we'll resume the growth. But until then, we need to work on infrastructure.
Okay. Meet you.
Nice meeting you.
And what is your name?
Sean O'Neill.
Okay, great. First, we're going to ask you some questions about your campaign. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, well, I'm running for the mayor of Wilsonville, and I've had a great campaign with a lot of volunteers and support. We've been doing this for over 5 months, so it's kind of neat that I get to close out my campaign today with you guys.
Yeah.
So.
What kind of inspired you to run for mayor?
Well, I have my one and only child, Tenzin, who's an 8th grader, who's going to be in high school here next year. And I really care about our community, and I kind of thought that, when you really want to help the community, there's times you need to step up. And I think it's a good lesson for my son and for everybody at your age group that there are times where we can give back to our community and do that.
Okay. Why would you consider yourself the best mayoral candidate?
Well, I've lived here in Wilsonville for 16 years. I've been involved in Wilsonville politics for 10 years, volunteered for the city for 10 years. I was on the City of Wilsonville's Development Review Board, I was there for 6 years, was the chair for 2 of those years, and then was on the Budget Committee. Very active in pushing for the inclusivity resolution to help our community be more an inclusive community for everybody, for all people, including marginalized representation. So, and I really care about our city. So that's pretty much why I think I'm more qualified than the other candidates.
What do you think, what are the most important plans that you would enact if you were to become mayor?
Well, the spokesman asked me, Wilson spokesman asked me, what is my more important policy? And I think the fundamental issue is a policy of inclusion. We tend to see the same people come to the city council meetings, and I would like to see more inclusion by a lot more people in our community, so a lot more outreach done by the city. So 34% of our citizenry are under the age of, I think it's 34. We have a large population of folks that are in that, they're people of color, LGBTQ plus, community of about 10%. I'd like to see most of those people have a voice in our community. And that's key for me is communication, because when we're all communicating, we're all contributing to the city, then the decision making at the city council level is better for all of us, if that makes sense.
How do you plan to make it more inclusive in city council?
Well, a perfect example is I think we need to do more town halls, going outside of the city council room, being more engaged with the community in different segments of our community. But it takes our community to step forward, because no matter how I might want to bring people in, they have to be willing to be participants. And that can be hard. I'm not judging anybody. 81% of our community commutes outside of Wilsonville to work. And when you're a young family and you're trying to raise children and working away from Wilsonville, you really don't have that much time unless it's on the weekends. So we got to find some sort of dynamic to bring them into the conversation.
Are there any final statements you would like to make, just really speak to the people of Wilsonville and Wilsonville High School more specifically?
Okay. Well, I know I got gray hair, but I was a high school student once, and I was also later a college student, and there was a fire that I had at your age. And as we get older as humans, we get burdened with family and work. That fire, you really have to work hard. And I encourage you, especially at high school level, be more active in politics. Speak up, come to city council. I would love to see more participation by people at the high school level. We do have some boards that include high school students. I would like to see more of that. The more we have young people involved, the more we make better decisions for everybody. Because really, as a mayor, if I'm elected, my decision making is not about me and my age group. It's about our community in the future of our community, which is your age group. So you guys deserve a voice, and we need to hear from you.
Overall, election time is a very stressful time for anyone as we wait to see what comes in the next few days.
However, we hope that our broadcast could help kind of break down the election more and make everyone feel a little bit more comfortable with where the country stands.
Thank you all for watching.